What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Peak Performance Engineering. I'm Brandon, and today I'm going to be taking you guys through the unboxing and the, putting together of the Holley LT Gen 5 swap pan. And so the factory truck pan is really deep, won't work for our application. So I forget what it is, but the Holley pan is considerably shorter. I want to say maybe the maximum depth is something like 6 inches versus the stock pan is 9 or 10, something like that. So it was going to give us some issues with the cross member hitting it. Let me go ahead and get started unboxing this thing, and I'll show you guys what we're working with. And these pans are not cheap. So this is like $408 plus Michigan sales tax. It was about $430. For this, to put this thing together, you don't need many tools. Some brake clean so we can clean the bottom of the engine where the old pan gasket went. We do need a new filter. So for our truck application, it has a filter that's maybe this tall. And so this is just the pan from a Corvette, probably also the same for a Camaro, but it'll give you some more profile. And then just a little bit of a tool set just to put the bolts on. You will need some high temp RTV, some oil resistant RTV, and blue thread locker, which I got somewhere. So some blue thread locker. All right, so first getting her open, here's what it looks like. We got one of the baffles here. Got some cardboard, and ooh, look at that shiny $400 of awesome. Part of the baffle there. It's interesting, so they actually want us to put a brush through the pan's oil pickup passages just to make sure it's clean. You would think for $400 they could do that for us, but hey, that's all right, we'll do that. I think it's a fully cast piece, so that's probably why they can't always get it out. So I think this might be the extra piece that we paid like an extra $20 for, basically. This is the extra baffle for the drag racing. You know what, the other thing I just noticed is there has to be instructions somewhere, because we're also missing, the O-rings and stuff. I think it's supposed to come with O-rings for this, and then the hardware for this is missing. So I realized that I'm not only missing the instructions, I'm missing the hardware kit. So it's pretty important because this hardware kit for this pan comes with not only the bolts that I need, but also there's a few different kind of O-ring type gaskets that's missing. All right, sorry, so I had to stop right there because that was actually Summit Racing calling me back. So apparently Summit spoke to Holley, and Holley was like, oh, we can't send you a new hardware kit till next week. Yeah, thanks a lot, Holley. So luckily, Summit sort of saved the day and I saved the day. So I knew that Summit did not have another 302-22 in stock, but they do have the 302-20 in stock, which is exactly the same pan. The only difference is that one doesn't come with that extra trapdoor baffle for drag racing. So Summit had that in stock in their Georgia location. They're gonna send that to me overnight, and I should get that tomorrow. And Summit was awesome enough to cover the $45 next day air shipping. So kudos to Summit. They've never let me down. Those guys are freaking awesome. Thank you again. And so we'll pick this back up tomorrow when the new pan comes in. All right, guys, so it's Friday morning, and sure enough, just as promised, Summit delivered. And let's see, do we have, yes. Here is the hardware that was completely missing from our first pan. All right, boys, so getting into this, kind of the main difference, if you look around on YouTube, there's some other videos of guys putting together the 302-20, which is just a standard Holley swap pan for the Gen 5 LT motors. So that one, instead of using this drag race baffle, just uses this standard baffle, which I think drops in just like that. But for this application, for some reason, Holley still gives you this, which seems like they should, since we specifically bought the 302-22, which comes with the drag race baffle, seems like they should not put this in the kit and just keep that, and maybe they could actually charge us $10 less or something. That'd be nice. All right, so the first thing I'm doing here, I'm going a little bit out of order with the instructions, but I'm plugging this oil return. So this is used if you have a turbocharger. We're not going to use it, so I'm going to go ahead and plug this off. It says to use some like thread sealant compound, which I don't have, so I just have some Teflon tape or whatever. So I just made sure I put it kind of on the last few threads, just that way it doesn't get inside the pan. But so you thread that down. So next thing I'm doing, I flip the pan over. I'm going to install their little adapter. So apparently you've got to use this to be able to use like a factory style oil filter. So I'm going to put that sucker in there, and then it says to tighten it to 40 foot-pounds. So get that done. I'm going to end up putting the oil filter on actually after it's bolted onto the motor because I want to fill it with oil and stuff, but I just kind of screwed it down real quick just so you can see what it looks like. So, you know, it's even shorter than the pan, so definitely lots of room here with this pan. All right, next I'm just going to go ahead and thread in the oil pan bolt. Ain't nothing much there. All right, so the next thing I'm doing is just putting on this block-off plate so this is from the factory. There's like a factory oil cooler. So Holley supplies you with this block-off plate if you're not using that, which we're not going to use. So you basically just put the gasket on, you stick this bad boy on there, and there's two M6 by 30 millimeter hex cap screws, if I didn't lose the other one. So put those on, tighten them down. Let's see, this calls for 106 inch-pounds on this bad boy. So let's do it. All right, so next I'm going to install these two-passage oil filter rings, seals. So we'll just pop those in. Let's see. Oh, nice and easy. Stick this sucker in there. Bada boom, bada bing. Ain't nothing to it. This guy over here for where the pickup's at. This now goes in one way. You can see it's got the bigger ridge on top, so obviously it goes like this. And just pop her down in there, and then that part will be done. All right, so next up, we're gonna go ahead and drop in the drag racing baffle. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. So 6 of those go in. So we'll go ahead and knock those out, get them all zipped in here. So this is also the part where you definitely want to use the blue Loctite. So guys, this bolt right here is kind of hard to get in because it's down in this little crevice. So one little trick I like to do, see if I can do it with one hand, is kind of take some material, piece of paper. I just grab this little piece of bag. So you shove that in there and then shove the bolt head in, and it'll kind of hold the bolt, and then you can slide it on down and start threading it in. So let me show you what it looks like. There you go. So just with that little, piece of wrapping, hold your bolt in there, and you can slide her down. So now we just got to take our oil pickup, and we got to kind of try to orient this dude in there a little bit. There's a little bit of magic that has to happen, but there you go. Get that in there like that. And then I just got to sandwich my little gasket in there. Don't forget about the gasket. That'd be a bad day for everybody. So we'll slide that in there. So one little tech tip that I'll give you guys, Holley doesn't show it in the instructions, but so they told you, go ahead and put this in, tighten these 6 bolts down. The problem is when I did that, now I don't really have enough room. I've mocked this all up before I bolted this in and it all worked fine. But now that I've tightened this, it's actually not quite allowing this pickup tube to go where it needs to go. So I think what I need to do is just kind of loosen these back up, get this how I need it, maybe even get it started, and then I'll tighten this down, and then I'll tighten this down. So that'll let everything work. So that's a good tip. Definitely kind of get both of these in here and then tighten this down before proceeding. Yep, so that did the trick. I just loosened these, just, one turn each, and boom, this popped right into place. So I'm gonna stick some bolts in there and get started tightening it, and then I'll go ahead back and tighten all these guys up. So the other tip here is Holley gives you 3 of these longer bolts, like I was telling you earlier. So 2 of them actually go in here in the pickup, and then that other longer bolt goes here. One other little tip I did just to make sure that there is still clearance, because I can't quite get my finger underneath all the way. I just took this little Holley piece of paper card and slid it underneath. So we're definitely not touching the bottom of the pan, which is good. But anyway, now we're ready to go ahead and put the windage tray on top. So when you do this, remember we got the longer bolt that goes right there. We'll stick this on. So once we get some more Loctite, this will be the first bolt that we go in right here, and then all the rest of these guys will be just the normal shorter silver colored 12 millimeter long bolts. All right, so as I'm going through putting all these bolts in, I realize I'm 2 bolts short. And when I look back at the instructions, even though there's 6 bolt holes on this baffle, they only want you to use 4 bolts and leave 2 open. So I gotta pop this back off real quick and figure out which bolts they want me to remove, which is kind of interesting. So this thing's pretty thin sheet metal, and I'm thinking they just didn't want maybe too many bolts, because I was having some issues when I was tightening, where I was kind of bending this actually, and it was causing the flap down there to not want to open and close freely, so I had to kind of make sure I had a minimal amount. So I'm going to take a look and see kind of which bolts they want us to not use on this. And so interestingly, their picture of their box is a little bit different than what I actually have. So they don't show like these top tabs, which locate the box here and here to this upper part. So those are what I'm going to remove, because as I look at this bolt, this tab, and this tab kind of located to the floor. So I think those are going to give it the most kind of structural rigidity. And then these are still going to be kind of pushing down on this. So I'm going to remove those two bolts, as I think those are probably the ones not needed. I can see in Holley's picture, they have at least one bolt going through a tab and two bolts going through a tab. And you can't tell on the back side, but I assume those are also going through kind of these inner tabs. So that's my assumption. So again, when tightening down these little guys, it just calls for 10 foot-pounds, so you definitely don't need much on them, and they'll be good to go. So now we're at the point where I've got to actually just jack this motor up, pop off the old pan, which we already had it off. It's literally just sitting in there, or sitting, on there with 4 or 5 bolts. So that's going to be no problem. I just got to pull it off, clean the underside, and then go ahead and get this thing gasketed up with the gasket maker. All right, so like I said, we already had this whole oil pan completely off. I only have 3 or 4 bolts holding it on right now. The one thing we do got to get out of here is the oil dipstick tube. So it's just 1 10 mil, and then we can slide that up out of the way. And then I'm going to get those bolts off, get the pan out, and make sure there's some little black clips that are on some of these bolts like this. And some of them came out with the bolt like this one. Some of them are stuck into the pan. So once I get the pan out, I'm going to have to get all those little black clips out. We do need to reuse the original pan bolts in the new pan. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to have to get my razor blade, kind of clean off the bottom of the motor, and use some brake clean, get it all good looking. All right, so I got the pan off and got them side by side just so you can kind of see the difference in the height. So you definitely are gaining quite a lot, 2-3 inches looks like. And then also the front of the pan is much skinnier. I forget what this is. Maybe it's a max of like 1.75 or 2 inches on the Holley pan. Easily double that on the stalker. So the other thing you want to make sure is make sure that this seal did come out. So ours did come out. You want to make sure it's not up here on the motor. Otherwise, when you go to put the other one on, you would definitely have some issues. All right, so we got this all cleaned, all prepped. That's ready to rock. All I'm doing over here now is a few of these little plastic caps were kind of stuck in here. So I just went and took a little bit smaller diameter socket, and I'm just able to stick that in and just kind of pop it with a hammer and knock those out. All right, so I got the RTV all around. Did a little bit kind of thicker in the corners. They wanted a 3/16 speed versus the 16th inch or 8th inch, sorry. So got that all done. Should be pretty good. The only, or kind of the cool thing is that with those little plastic retainers, it actually holds your bolts in. So I'm just alone today, so I'm going to be able to get this thing in, hopefully get it close, and then get these started. Just a hand to help record it, but I was able to just hold it with my left hand, and with my right hand I was able to thread in these bolts and then thread in the other ones. So we've got the 4 hanging. I'm going to cinch those up and then go get the other ones and start tightening them all. So listen, I don't think I've ever been accused of using a torque wrench. I think this might even be the first time I've ever used this bad boy, but just since, like I said, since this oil pan's kind of critical, I want to make sure this thing does not leak. 18 pound-feet is what it calls for on all the bolts except those real 2 skinny long ones. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get underneath this bad boy because that's how they have it, is looking from underneath. So I'm going to crawl under here with my motor, just waiting to fall down and crush me, just like Harbor Freight jack stands. And let's hope that doesn't happen for real though. All right, so looking at this, I went and grabbed a Sharpie, and I felt a little sad about drawing on my $435 oil pan. But anyway, just to make it easier, I just went and I numbered each of these bolts, so I could probably spray with brake clean and get it off anyway, but who cares? So anyway, this is gonna make it simple. I'm gonna go around, tighten them all. The only thing I've got left to do, which I probably won't film, is I just gotta put the starter back on. And that way we're gonna be ready to drop this motor in tomorrow, hopefully, into the Deathkart Solstice. With any luck, we will be dropping this motor into this car. So follow along if you haven't seen it already. We have quite a few other videos already up documenting the process. There's also a Facebook page. Check out Deathkart Solstice. And if you like what you see, go ahead and click the like button and click subscribe. And drop us a comment if you have any comments or anything you'd like to see us do in the future. Let me know. I'm out.